my mentors, George Pransky, I loved one of the ways that he talks about it is um, that there's this beautiful flute playing all the time in our mind. And he said, but there's also a brass band that is blaring, and you can't hear the flute over it until the brass band quiets down. The flute is never wavering, it's always playing. The brass band is kind of coming and going. Sometimes it's at a fever pitch, sometimes it's quieter. And then you're like, oh, there's a flute playing. Where did that? Has that? And then we think the flute is what comes and goes. And really, my experience of it, at least, is that it doesn't come and go. It's that, however you want to talk about it, our awareness of it, our experience of it, ebbs and flows. But it's always there. It's always there.
And both of those instruments play on top of silence.
Well, you could take it, it's a metaphor. Come on, Harold.
Which is the root of it all, yeah?
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that.
It's an interesting, let's just riff off that for a second. So
Yeah,
that's an
sure.
interesting thing. So you could say like the silence is the all oneness, everything, the true God of gods, if you will, or whatever. And the flute is the sort of the unique expression of your, if we were Christian, it'd be your soul, or whatever. And then the brass band is like the whole thinking structure that you believe what you are, or what have you. And often, the first process is just realizing that there's this unique flute that has a unique song, which can only be played through this body, through this time.
But it has the same source.
But all of it is on top of
Yeah,
the ultimate source, which is the silence.
I like that. Very nice. You redeemed yourself.
Thank you.
For ruining my metaphor. No, I'm just kidding. I really loved how you extrapolated that. That was very cool.
I just get really music metaphors, water metaphors, and light metaphors.
That's as good as we've got. Really, you really can't speak about any of this without metaphor, right? Without something that isn't what we're talking about, right? It's very funny that we sort of have made our lives about being in this conversation with people, and you can't actually address it directly. And there's something beautiful about that too. So I think we've come to, actually I've in my mind I'm thinking about the Buddhism Christianity example you gave, and then I'm also thinking about you and I in this conversation. I feel like we have sort of
arrived together,
which I think is quite nice. So I wonder, Harold, is there anything else from where you're sitting and your understanding of just this conversation of false idols that you might want to add to the conversation?
My favorite part is just that sort of last bit we were talking about with the mind, because it's the part, I see it all the time, how people are in their thoughts, and then they believe what they're thinking, and then they live their life from that. And it's a completely artificial construct.
Right.
And because the thoughts can change, as your experience or as you talk to other people with different thoughts, we're like, oh, that's a different thought than mine. No, that's a better thought than mine. So then we adopt, but we're still always so much living in this thought structure instead of, let's use our last analogy. So we're living as though we're the brass band, right? And we're writing music for the brass band. We're finding concerts for the brass band.
Yeah.
We're putting out CDs, of the brass band.
And my brass band is different from your brass band.
Yeah, and mine's actually way better. Like,
And
you
no,
should hear my
mine's
tuba
better.
player. Um,
My saxophone rocks.
Instead of realizing, there's underneath of that whole brass band is this flute that pre-exists the whole brass structure, which can't be accessed through or by the brass band.
Right.
You can't think your way to the flute. You can't play your brass instruments to the flute. It can't be done because the brass band exists as it's a band. It's a band on its own.
Right.
So I think, part of the process is just letting go of our noticing, like, what are your thoughts? Like, notice that you have these thoughts. Notice how attached you are to them. And then look at where in your life, because we've all had this experience so thousands of times where we just feel the fluteness. We feel the flute playing.
Mm-hmm.
We just feel the flow. We just feel like the joy is just flowing through us, and we're just alive in our very unique expression,
Yeah.
And then once you start, once you get into that, start sensing the silence that your unique flute is playing on top of,
Right.
and it has to come through our experience. We have to go into our being to get to get the experience of this, to reconnect. And you don't have to go through some process. There's no steps or whatever. It can happen right now. Just like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I like that you kind of pointed to the notion that we just don't know it. It's like we're sleepwalking through life, and we don't know. We don't know that this, because the brass, to use the analogy, the brass band is our reality. We think it is. It's made of thought. But that's like all there is. And what if there was something else? What if there's something deeper? And I think everyone, like you said, intuitively knows there's something else. That's not the whole show, right?